So when I'm working with, could be a coach, a doctor, a lawyer, it doesn't really matter what people do, educators. We spend a lot of time just saying, what makes you so unique, so special at what you do that there is no other competition? So it's like your unique genius in the world. How do we say that you do it so uniquely and so differently than everybody else that that becomes your brand, right? If you think about it, like all, doctors came out of medical school, lawyers came out of law school. I'm an MBA and there's a billion of us in the world, right? We all have the same education, but we're all uniquely different, right? So when we need a doctor or a lawyer or an MBA, we look for that energy in the world. We look for, what are we connecting with? What makes this person unique that I'm choosing this person?
Your business's success depends on relationships with customers, relationships with employees, and relationships with stakeholders. What do they all have in common? They're all human. Because no matter if your business is B2B or B2C, it's really H to H, human to human. Welcome to the Human Connection Podcast. I'm your host, Karl Pontau. Each week, I'll bring you stories, insights, and practical advice from experts that you can apply to your growing company and daily life. This week, I'm excited to connect with Camille Miller. She is a 3 times best-selling author on soul-driven entrepreneurship, pioneer of the soul professional movement, and a sought-after transformational business strategist and intuitive mentor. She is dedicated to helping soul-led entrepreneurs worldwide design businesses that aligns with their values and purpose. Her mission is simple: to inspire and support others in bringing their gifts to the world. Congrats on helping inspire others, and welcome to the Human Connection Podcast.
Oh, thank you so much for having me today. I appreciate it.
So I love the focus on helping people build connections with their clients that you focus on. I think it's really important for brands to differentiate themselves with those relationships. So how can brands go about building those relationships better?
Well, I think right now there's a lot of noise out there. If we look at social media and all the things that we can do, all the newsletters, email campaigns, because AI has made it so easy for absolutely everybody to put stuff out there. And it's really not quality anymore. It's just quantity, which makes it really hard for those that are trying to build a brand differentiation to be visible. So I think right now we really need to work and concentrate on visibility and having those human to human conversations, like you said, to really set ourselves apart. So for a brand, no matter what that brand is, if it's product, if it's service, if it's big, if it's small, you want to really differentiate yourself in the market. Like, what makes you so different and unique from everybody else out there? And sometimes it's just stating that in your posts or in your advertising, but what makes you different? Like my own brand, what makes us different is we, blend that science and soul, right? We blend that human piece with the very logical piece, the spiritual piece with the logical. And that's unique. Not a lot of people do it in the world, and they certainly don't do it the way we do it. So it's really niching down as much as possible so you know your brand. So they're looking for you too. But you have to make it very obvious when they find you that you're the solution.
Yeah, and it's also, I think about building the connection beyond the transaction that so many companies are not really focusing on. They just think, oh, we've closed the deal, then we're good.
Yeah.
That's really just a starting point, or like the middle point. You need to further build the connection on a more personal level with the customers or clients or whoever you're dealing with, because if you want them to stick around and actually advocate for you or buy again, once you get their money the first time, if you just like ignore them or basically deliver what they paid for and half-ass it after that, they're not going to stick with you, because there's so many other options out there, and they're, like I said, getting flooded with all this other noise, and you risk then forgetting to renew or being swayed by something else if you're not building a really strong relationship on a much more personal level than most companies are doing these days.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's hard to do, right? So if you're doing it through posts or through email, most people aren't even reading them. Like I had a paid membership for years and people were paying and not opening or showing up, not opening anything we sent them and not showing up to anything they paid for. So we were like, how do we start building this so they see us? It's a really hard problem right now.
And so what did you do to solve that problem for your own business?
Well, we're still working on it because I think times are changing. That membership I ended up closing after 10 years. It served its purpose for a really long time when people needed community, but I felt like it was changing and what people were looking for was changing. So we actually closed that in December of 24. And now with our global movement, we're still trying to figure out, how are we keeping community and seeing everyone, because people are joining the movement, but then not opening the follow-up emails on onboarding or what's next or how to network together or how to build these relationships. And I think there's a lot of communities out there too, like no one opens Facebook anymore, right? So our Facebook communities don't work. We talk a lot on LinkedIn, but there's no like sacred space for people because there's, everyone's looking for attention. So we haven't really figured out what the new thing is, but I think it's something that doesn't exist in that form yet, or what's not mainstream yet, because people have a very small attention span right now.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of, or some people I've talked to on the show have talked about that more and more companies are doing in-person stuff offline.
Yep.
Where you're getting all in the same room together.
Yep.
And I think, especially from the lack of that during the pandemic and that era, that there is a realization of how valuable that face-to-face in-person connection is. And so I think instead of these online groups like the Facebook groups or LinkedIn groups that people join and don't really engage in, because when they're online, there's so much other stuff that's distracting or vying for their attention. Whereas if you have everyone in the same room and you're talking with each other, then there's less likely for them to be something that distracts people. Obviously, their phones are still might be in their pockets and stuff, but it's still just there. You feel a lot more connected with people when you're in the same room with them than if you're just looking at it through like a chat window.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think we can build, because I have very close relationships with people through Zoom, right? I still do all of my meetings through Zoom and I don't cut them short. Like we have really good human conversations, and a lot of people I've met since 2020 have all been Zoom relationships. Right. But for instance, I just flew to Costa Rica to meet a group of 15 people that I've never met before and only knew through Zoom. Right. So, but it was a much different experience when we were all there together for the whole time. It was only for 5 days. Right. But we built deeper relationships that are now going to be, pivotal in my business and who I am, and more than business, probably friendships. Right. But I think Zoom, when we are still further apart, is better than online communities and all the other stuff.
Yeah, I think what makes the video connections so much better than text is because you have more of the person there. You get to see more of the expressions. It's not as good as in person, like you said. Like that Costa Rica trip sounds awesome, but it's much better than just text, because there's so much of human communication that's not communicated when you just have the words. You don't get the tone of voice, you don't get the emphasis, you don't get all the body language and facial expressions that come along with it. So I think for businesses trying to build relationships, if you're just sending out a newsletter or you're just sending out emails and people aren't engaging, well, it's because probably just because the a contributing factor would be just because it's just text, and there's and attention spans being what they are, it's harder to keep people's attentions with just text. And so, but if you have more video or in-person communications, then that's a lot more engaging, and it's a lot more of the authentic communication and connection that people are really craving.
Yeah.
So for businesses that are trying, especially in like B2B, where you're really need to build deep relationships with your contacts at a client company, doing more in person or through video helps build those relationships stronger than just sending out newsletters and or emails.
Agreed. I think everyone tunes in differently though. So some people like social media, some people like the newsletters. You know, I prefer email over WhatsApp. So a business kind of has to do it all to get core groups of people moving forward, right? It's just a lot more work to keep engaged with people, keep connected.
Yeah, and I think it also helps just to ask people how they want to get communicated with. If you just assume everyone wants the same thing, you're going to be in the big trouble, which is I think what a lot of marketers are doing. Is just, well, everyone wants this, we're going to just spray it out to everyone and they're all going to like it. And it's like, well, no, because it's your audience. Again, if you're niching down like you should be, if you don't understand exactly what their preferred communication method is and personalizing it for them, then it's going to be a lot harder to engage them, because you're not keeping their own kind of habits and behavior in mind when you reach out.
Exactly.
So I think it comes down to the more that there's a movement towards personalization and making sure people feel seen by your brand, and that the mass communication and the ease of generating content from AI doesn't help you better understand what your audience actually wants. It just helps you make more noise, and people are already sick of noise.
Yes. I agree. I don't know what the answer is, because I think our attention spans are getting shorter and shorter and shorter. It's hard other than differentiate.
So what are the ways you've helped people differentiate in the past?
Really bringing out their unique qualities. So when I'm working with, could be a coach, a doctor, a lawyer, it doesn't really matter what people do, educators. We spend a lot of time just saying, what makes you so unique, so special at what you do that there is no other competition. So it's like your unique genius in the world. How do we say that you do it so uniquely and so differently than everybody else that becomes your brand, right? If you think about it, like all, doctors came out of medical school, lawyers came out of law school. I'm an MBA, and there's a billion of us in the world, right? We all have the same education, but we're all uniquely different, right? So when we need a doctor or a lawyer or an MBA, we look for that energy in the world. We look for, what are we connecting with? What makes this person unique that I'm choosing this person, right? Because there's a whole bunch of people in the world that you can choose from. How do you choose that person, right? And it's probably something that resonates with you personally, or they're uniquely different in some way that the transformation by working with them will be different.
Yeah, I definitely see how for entrepreneurs and professionals, it's a lot about who they are themselves personally. That's a big differentiator. If they've kind of had the same education and schooling as their competitors, and for a startup, it's feel like the vision and the what the founders or the leadership team, what they bring that helps differentiate it, and the way they're approaching the problems they solve, and like what the humanity behind the business is think helps differentiate it from all the other like SaaS platforms out there that are doing the same sort of work, but it's a lot more about either like the how they go about doing it and the who that are people are interacting with that could be the real differentiators and appeal to like you said, the best customers in that niche. But if they just try and go too wide with their focus, then you lose all differentiation, and
Yep.
it just becomes noise, like we've been talking about.
Yeah, agreed. Or if like I work with a lot of coaches, mentors, advisors, those type of people, and sometimes they just have like so many packages, right? Or they go get another certification, and that's not really helping their brand at all, because it's making them go wide, not narrow. You want to be narrow so people can specifically find you for what you're good at.
Yeah, and it's I mean, that's not as but in no ways like a new advice, but given with what's been happening with AI, it's even more and more important, because that focus is what it's like. If you have one of the adjustable focused flashlights, where if you make it really wide beam, you can't really see that well. You can't see anything very well. But if you focus the beam, then you can focus. You really can see what's in front of you, and people will see you from further off, and will be drawn to the light more than if it's just a kind of a wide angle, dim spread of a beam. And there's just so much value in that advice for businesses, because I think if people get excited kind of on the hype train of, oh, we can do so much now, so much easier, but doing more and doing it easily doesn't make it effective or a good use of your time or your budget. And I think a lot of companies are caught up in the, ooh, this is new and exciting, and look how easy this is, but they don't realize that if it's not actually getting the results they want, then it doesn't matter how easy or quickly you can make the content. If it doesn't work, then you're still wasting time and money. Exactly.
Yeah. And just posting or putting something out there for the sake of putting something out there for like a content schedule doesn't really help you at all, because then you're just throwing the same stuff out there that everyone else is throwing out there, and it's not cutting through the noise.
And so, yeah, when you're working with your clients, what's besides just like that adding to the noise, what's like the biggest hiccup they have when they're trying to figure out what makes them different and helping them niche down like that?
So a lot of times people have a unique gift, or they have incredible results with clients, but they don't focus on that because it comes so naturally to them that they don't realize that that is their gift. You know, they want to cast that big net to try to catch everyone without going narrow and saying, this is who I specifically work with, right? I specifically work with very logically brained, soul aligned entrepreneurs in service that have global businesses. There are almost always in midlife, the second career. They've been highly successful in one career, and now they want to do something else. So my focus is very narrow, right? And a lot of people just go, well, I want to work with all women, or I want to work with, like, I can help everyone because they're stressed. You know, that's too wide of a net. So people can't identify with themselves. Another big thing I work with is, I say, from corporate to calling. And what happened is, I guess I was starting to talk about that. I have an online class about, you know, finding your purpose in the world. And then people started asking me to talk on it, right? And I was like, oh, I guess this is a very narrow focus that I can start to concentrate on, right? So sometimes listening to your clients or what you're being asked to do and being in response to what people want is a smart way to go, because people are telling you how they see you, how they need you to show up, what problems you're solving for them. We have to listen, right? I solve a very specific problem, but it was everyone kind of telling me that this is the problem we need solved. Can you solve it for us? Right? And that's how my niche got so narrow.
I think that's a great takeaway. Instead of assuming you know what problem needs to be solved, listen to people and they'll tell you what they need help with. And
yes,
that's how you can really focus your niche down and make it something that people will respond to, because it's not something you assume they need. It's something they're telling you they need, and you're listening to them and responding to it. Well, thank you so much for connecting with me today, Camille. If you enjoyed this episode of the Human Connection podcast, please like, leave a review, and share it. If you'd like to connect with myself or Camille, check out the links in the show notes. And remember, no matter if your business is B2B or B2C, it's really H to H, human to human. Happy connecting.